Hey everybody, I thought I'd make a fun video here building a custom Kingdom Death board game. So this is just the main board where you're doing the encounters with the monster. The survivors are battling the monster. This is partly a celebration of Kingdom Death's ultra successful Kickstarter that just took place. I think they raised close to $12 million. And it only makes sense to me that such a nice upscale board game should deserve a classy board. First, I'd like to say that by no means am I a carpenter, engineer, or professional hobbyist here, but just your normal, everyday basement gamer who enjoys throwing paint on models. So the board that I plan to design for Kingdom Death will be as close to true scale to the board the game comes with, meaning that it's going to be 2 by 3 foot, and the squares or tiles in the board should be close to exact, and I believe they're 34 millimeters. The board has 16 by 22 tiles. The board itself will be made of wood, and I'll show you the pieces that I've collected to make the board out of. I also plan to add some fun design to the board to make it look a little realistic. However, when planning this board out, I realized there were going to be some challenges because unlike a normal tabletop miniature game where you can construct a battlefield pretty much however you want, this is a board game and it also needs to be functional. What that means is it would be difficult to have elevated pieces of terrain on the board. Monsters need to have spaces to move around as well as the survivors, and tiles are an important component to this game, and so I want to make sure that you can clearly tell where base falls on a tile. For that reason, I plan to make the board pretty much flat with the tiles, but I do have some ideas of how I can make the tiles themselves look a bit more creative. My current plan right now is that when I put the wooden tiles down into the board, I plan to go back over them with a plaster kind of gravel material, and then I'm going to put some little plastic skulls embedded into the plaster itself. And the idea here is it will sort of look like what the board game already does, that you'll have those faces that the survivors will be walking on. The other idea that I thought would be fun is that, of course, the board itself has a center 4 tiles that are illuminated, indicating where the monsters are placed when you position them on the board. I wanted to have fun with this on this custom board by having a centerpiece that would clearly illustrate where the monsters should be positioned. Initially, I was thinking it'd be cool to have a pedestal, which is kind of pictured on the actual board where the monsters would go. The problem is that there are some monsters with bigger bases and others with smaller bases, and it could be the case that the pedestal that I developed might not be big enough for a monster to be positioned. Instead, I thought it would be fun to do some kind of design to look like broken up tiles in the center, and in this case I thought it would be appropriate to do the outline of a lantern and then have where the light would be the centerpiece where models would start. Another idea I'm also considering is doing the inner walls of the board game. Again, there's going to be some 2x4s that kind of hold this thing together, so there should be about 1.5 inches or so wall that goes around the board. I thought it might be kind of fun to do some kind of brick layer on the walls, or maybe even plaster them so it looks like the inside of a cave. I haven't quite decided that yet. We'll see how the board comes together first. So in this video, what I plan to do is show you the materials that I've collected, and then I'm going to go ahead and construct the foundation of the board. This is going to be probably a 2 or 3 part video series, largely because some of the pieces that I need for it are going to have to be shipped to me. So I bought about 500 miniature skulls, some of them coming from China, so it might take a couple weeks. So here are the materials for building the custom Kingdom Death board game, and right there we got the piece of plywood I'll be using for the base of the game. That's actually like a 2 by 4 foot piece right now. I'm gonna have to cut it down to 2 by 3. Got these 2x4s here. These are going to actually be the sides of the board, and then these 4x1s on the side there, those are going to be the base of the frame holding up the plywood in the middle. And then I don't have I couldn't find 34 millimeter tiles online. You can find close to that. They get pretty expensive, and the reality is this board game is going to require somewhere around 300 since you have 16 by 22 tiles. And so what I did is I got these, I believe they're 2" by 2" pieces of wood, and I'm going to make my own tile. So I'll cut it down to 34 millimeters and then cut those down into tiles for the game. So let's get cutting. Alright, just to give you a little update here, I've cut the plywood that's going to be the base of the game, the board, down to 2 by 3 foot, and then you can see I've cut those 2 by 3s or 2 by 4s down to surround it, so you get the walls there, and then the smaller, I think it's like a 1 by 4 or something. Cut that down. I'm going to cut a couple more to 2 foot. Those are actually going to be on the bottom, on the base of this piece of plywood to give it support underneath. Anyways, we're making some progress here. It doesn't look like much right now. I'll be assembling it here soon and give you a better idea of what we're looking at. Alright, the frame is built, and now I'm going to insert the plywood into the center. It's a little bit bent, but what I can do is I'll weight it down and kind of warp it back into place. Alright, so the plywood is inserted, and now for the fun part of cutting out 300 tiles. And there we have 300 plus tiles that are about 34 millimeters. And stay tuned for the part 2. I'm probably going to be gluing these tiles down onto the board. And also, I think I'm going to be cutting out a centerpiece for the board. So thanks for checking this out.